from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Focus on Liberia, and this is Primetime Sunday, we are going to be delving into some national issues, and I'm glad to have a very good panel here tonight to help me delve into these issues. We are going to be looking at President Weah at the UNGA, that is President Weah and his delegation at the United Nations General Assembly. We're going to go into this whole thing about Congo-Country divide. Almost every election cycle, there are people who talk about the Congo-Country. We're going to talk about that. And there are people asking, where is Uncle Joe? Where is JNB in the politics of Liberia? How active and visible is he as we go on to 2023? With me to discuss this, I have from the Dr. E.Z.M. Boto, who is a seditian. In fact, he is aspirant District Number 3 representative seat in Grand Jida County. Dr. Boto, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jha. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. It's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. I also have the honor to welcome Mr. Gibson Jeru. He's the chairman for the Gonglo Strategic Media Committee. Mr. Gibson Jeru is also a fellow talk show host. Mr. Jeru, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I have been on this show before in different capacities, but this time I'm here as a politician in the media scheme.
And this is our first time having you with the hat of Team Gonglo on your head.
Right.
It's good to have you.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to also welcome Mr. Laraman Shenkin Yonton. He is also a politician, aspiring District Number 4, Monserrato County, and possibly on the ALP ticket. Mr. Laraman Yonton, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Oh, Dennis, thank you. It's actually District 12, Monserrato County.
Oh, District Number 12, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So the
and
ALP
that's
is
the Stephen Tupper Estate area there, Double Bridge.
Yes, definitely. So the ALP is going to go into a collaboration. There is a collaboration that will be announced called the Democratic Alliance of Liberia. And so we're going to feed candidates through the DAL. So not directly through the ALP here.
Thank you and welcome to the show. Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but it's good to be back home.
Thank you. I also want to welcome his colleagues, call him Perfect Manager, Maurice Kroman. Mr. Kroman is independent. He worked in the Ellen government, so people can easily link him with Unity Party. You always make that clarification that he is not leaning, and probably this election may be the first election where he is not choosing a candidate. Perfect Manager, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. It's really great to be chosen to be among these great men to talk about our country and the progress that we're going to make as a society. I'm glad you put in the clarity about my political leaning and where I sit at this point. It's good to be here.
Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and of course, we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Well, last week was dominated by the presence of President Weah and his delegation at the United Nations General Assembly. First of all, the General Assembly of every year, we see our leaders come here to kind of give an update on their country. And the General Assembly is the only part of the arm of the UN that includes everybody. So we are very happy to talk about President Weah visiting. There were a lot of things that dominated President Weah's stay here. So let's take a minute each and just talk about what your impression is, what you observe. In fact, there are other people who are calling for Liberia not to attend the UNGA. So let's go around the room. Let me start with Dr. Boto here. He is a seditian. He was probably in New York to welcome the president. Dr. Boto, what's your impression of the president at the UNGA delegation and what has been accomplished from this trip?
Thank you, Mr. Jha. When it comes to accomplishment, I would say that Liberia will benefit the fact that the president had the opportunity to have a lunch with one of the greatest countries on earth, the president for the United States. And there was a tete-a-tete meeting, discussions were held, and what comes out of it will be made public soon. Secondly, the UN Assembly is always the place where a country comes forward to make its case, explain its accomplishment and what it intends to do in the coming year. Liberia, as you all know, the government is currently improving the health sector, the educational sector, the economy is doing well. Mind you, most people will argue otherwise, but everything else is connected these days when it comes to global economy. But again, that's another debate that we will also get into time to come. But definitely, the visitation to the General Assembly benefits Liberia. The fact that our president had a chance to have a tete-a-tete meeting with the larger economy in the world.
Thank you so much. Amara, if you can adjust your camera so you can have it in a landscape view, please do that. All right. A lot of things dominated the General Assembly. Let me share with you some of the photos coming from the General Assembly, and some of them were maybe not what we expected. Some of them were side attractions, and people were probably focusing on something else. So let me show some photos here. Let me first go around and let me hear from Mr. Gibson Jeru on his general impression about the UN President's delegation at the UNGA.
Okay, thank you very much. For me, I'm not surprised for a Liberian president to be at the General Assembly, because every Liberian president who comes to power will attend the General Assembly. But what matters is what the person says at the General Assembly that concerns me. And I'm shocked that President Weah went to the General Assembly to give a false impression about what is happening in the country. For instance, in his speech, he talked about his administration boosting sustainable finances for Liberians. How? Where? Which Liberians are enjoying the financial boost in Liberia? He talked about equitable distribution of national. When you talk about equitable distribution of national wealth, which part of Liberia equitable distribution is taking place? He also talked about he is involved in the programs for disadvantaged youth. I don't know. The last time I visited Liberia, I didn't see anything like that. Maybe it started yesterday. And this is the part that caught my attention most. He said his administration is promoting female entrepreneurship in the country. Really? Female entrepreneurship? Even the males don't have entrepreneurship. Then you're talking about female entrepreneurship? How? Which Liberian female entrepreneurs that we have that our government can boast of enhancing their capacity? Our government has failed to create conditions, enabling conditions that will allow Liberians entrepreneurs to flourish in the economy that they want to spearhead. When the president came to power, he told us we will not be spectators. But what are we? We are at the till, not just spectators, but we are trying to even get into the gate. We are not just spectators, but we are even trying to get among the spectators. So this is a misrepresentation of the general atmosphere, the general outlook of the Liberian government programs, and this is a deceit to the United Nations. And I don't know who he's trying to impress. The people know him more than they know he knows himself. They just nailed 3 of his cabinet ministers with huge corruption, and he talking about national distribution of equitable wealth. This is what we need to stop. Our president can be appealing, he can be fine man, he can be ugly man, he can be tall, great, whatever you can be. But when you go into the United Nations General Assembly and tell them that your government is ensuring the equitable distribution of Liberian wealth, then you are actually making mockery of the Liberian people. Because I don't see anywhere where wealth is being equitably, the word equitably, distributed in Liberia. And this is a sham. It is, I think the president should be able to withdraw his statement. The speech he made was caricature to promote his Milos activities. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed.
Mr. Yunton, an overview of your, what you make of the president's and his delegation trip to the UNGA. You can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Dennis. The United Nations General Assembly is a forum where nations of the world make the case. It's a forum where national leaders, global leaders meet to talk about global present issues that confront the world. Weah's speech was empty. It was more like a soundbite. There's nothing substantive. You don't lie to someone who has the fights, right? The fights are out there. The president spoke about the nation being a stronghold for peace. Peace is a very strong word. It meets at the intersectionality of everything that makes the country, from education to health, to even human rights and civil rights, civil liberties of our people. And the last time I checked, peaceful societies around the world are measured by what they call the PPI, the Positive Peace Index, which is given in the Global Index report of 2022. Iceland is the most peaceful country in the world. But what are the objective conditions, the taxonomy of peace, that make a nation peaceful? You want to talk about the government's overall level of trust. Just the other day in September 2021, NAMO published a report that 93% of all of our population do not trust the government in terms of providing security for them. How can your country be a stronghold for peace when people are dying mercilessly, when there are a lot of missing rhetoric deaths, there are political deaths taking place all over the country? The last time we checked, the case has been inconclusive on the missing boys that was surrounding Simose Funeral Home. So the country is not peaceful. It can never be peaceful. And even if you look at other aspects, the business climate, you boast of pushing as a feminist in chief and pushing for women entrepreneurs, when you do not even provide an able environment through which the private sector can strive. You're not creating jobs when you promise in the PAPD that you're going to provide 1 million jobs. The only thing we see is the government that is actively trying to incorporate seditions into the government through hiring into line ministry and agency, and that's not how you build a vibrant private sector. So this the irony about this whole thing is when you see all of this happening, and then you have apologies of the government cannot even point to the benefit that this delegation using of taxpayer money can accrue for the country. Now, my brother Boto just said that the benefit was that the president had launched with Joseph Biden. It doesn't make sense to me. Our first appearance at the GA was in 2018. We did not see any benefit that came out of that. He promised in 2018 that he was going back home to ensure that he pushed for the establishment of war and economic stronghold. We have not seen that. He promised that he was going to fight corruption. In fact, ministers who are in the government now are under Magnitsky Sanction Act. And then there's new conversation as to whether they should run in this election or have the possibility of U.S. pulling out the support from the National Elections Commission. The country is in a retrogressive state. And I don't think any patriotic Liberian should be defending this government at this point in time.
Thank you. Let's also welcome the unquestionable independent Robert Glickman Gagwa Jr. Mr. Gagwa, welcome to the show, and let me hear your thoughts on the president and his delegation at the UNGA.
Well, George, Dennis, it's great to be on as always. I apologize for being a little late. Got from work a little late today. But look, I think that this speech, few things. I think that the speech was, I won't say it was well written, but I think it was well delivered. And when you look back at the president's first state of the address in the United Nations, I think we can all agree, regardless of which side you find yourself, George Weah is not the most eloquent of speakers, right? But I think that given where he has come from to the speech that I listened to the other day, I think that he has improved tremendously. And so yeah, so I think it was well delivered. Now, when you look at the content of the speech, though, I think that there are lots of things within that are debatable, that are arguable. Like one of the things that he mentioned that kind of shocked me was when he said that Liberia economic growth um, were or is on the path or was showing strength in areas that compared to previous areas that it never showed. And I'm not an economist, but I know that one does not have to be an economist to know that the economy in Liberia has not really moved the needle. There hasn't been a serious economic policy to really get us out of the mess that we find ourselves. But I thought there were parts of the speech that was very effective. Look, I did not expect George Weah to speak on any fight against corruption because you can't be fighting against corruption when you have two or three of your top government officials sanctioned, right? Based on that, so I thought strategically it was a great idea not to include that part. But I thought he was very authoritative when he spoke on the fact that there were no political prisoners in Liberia, and there has been no political prisoner in Liberia, and I thought that it was very effective because in as much as we want to talk about all of what is wrong with Liberia right now under this administration, and I'm all for it, right? I don't think Weah has met any expectations at the level that a lot of people expected him. But I think he was spot on when he spoke about peace and the fact that there were no political personnel in the country. Because when you look back at the previous government, uh, there were folks who were dragged to jail. There were folks who were impersonated. That's a fact. Henry Costa is one of those. There were folks who were dragged to jail. There were folks
Right.
who were impersonated because they criticized the government, right? And so I thought that part was very effective. And let's not also forget, Liberia, a democracy, though peace and democracy, though fragile, I think we can all agree that we have been able to consistently conduct elections where, even though there have been some discrepancies and there's been some issues, but we have been able to conduct peaceful elections in our country that have not led to any chaos or whatsoever. And so I think that
Thank you.
our peace and our democracy is growing. It's fragile, but I think it's growing.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Kroman about his impression about the trip, and you can comment on the speech as well.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm listening to Robert, and I'm asking myself, how is Liberia peaceful in the context of what Liberian people are experiencing. Peace is not the silence of the guns. Peace can be contextualized in the sense of security, human security. So if I'm able to get out of my house and walk to the store 10 o'clock at night and walk back home without feeling intimidated or feeling scared, of feeling the fear that something may happen to me, then I can say, I have some sort of security that is guaranteed. We can't say that for the case of some Liberians right now. All of us can agree that people in Liberia have some sort of fear because they don't know what their own human security will be within the next hour. Even if they travel on the highway, they don't know what may happen. So, I mean, that whole concept of Liberia is peaceful has so many question marks that we can talk about. on the president delivery of the speech, like Yonton said, is becoming, a caricature of lies that the president is delivering to the United Nations. And these are people that are aware of what is happening in Liberia. You don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that things are not okay in Liberia. The president brags of being a feminist in chief in Liberia, but rape is on the rise in the country. Every day, every night, we hear, stories about a young child being raped. There are government officials currently that were arrested on allegations of rape. The president did not take any action against those things. If you are the feminist in chief and there are allegations like that, you have to be drastic in what you do. Either you speak to the nation about it and talk about how grave this is, a crime. Imagine the Maritime Authority release a statement saying this is wrong, and we will dig into it to investigate what happened. The president talks about how he provided entrepreneurial opportunities. I know Gibson talked about that. I don't want to go through that, but you have a foreign minister also who was also accused of sexual molestation, and you take the man, put him on a trip, and bring him back to the United States, and walk around inside the United Nations hall as though everything is okay. You're telling everybody else around the world, you're giving them the middle finger to say, screw you, I don't care what your allegations are. These are my officials, and I'm going to work with them. The president have not taken action against the 3 public officials that the United States accused of a corruption. President did not have the balls to fire them. Those people resigned on their own. So it speaks to the kind of leader that we have in this president. And so when I hear, our good old friend Dr. Boto said that the president mission in America was successful because he met the greatest president of the world. Yes, it's a good thing to meet the president and sit and have lunch. But this delivery now is, after all of this is said and done, the president and his entire entourage should tell us what is it that Liberia has benefited from this trip. I'm really eager to hear that. And then you have people on the president trip who basically have no clue what they're in America for. They come and they enjoy the fanfare, of public. Remind you, people are using taxpayers' money to do all of the things that they're doing. They come to the United States, unprofessionally dressed in a place where world leaders are meeting, and the thing is okay. It's disheartening. I don't want to go into the details of it, but I'm just saying that this is Liberia's reputation around the world is diminishing day by day, and all of us that walk around with Liberian passport now should start to begin to ask ourselves whether we are comfortable traveling with a Liberian passport because of everything that is happening internationally.
Thank you. Let's look at some pictures and get some highlights on the trip. And some of these things were like, were they distraction? Were they people were making, much of these things? One, this was a picture of the first lady. It's like, I think this was corrected later when the first lady and the president switched seats. There were also news about the first lady playing Candy Crush. We also see there was much also about the chief of protocol, Fina Bono, with a backpack. Some said, no, this is a bag. Finally, the president was able to meet President Biden. A lot of people have been kind of talking about it. How can you be the president of Liberia, and almost after 5 years, you have not met the president of the United States? You have no invitation. There you have it. We also see the lawmaker, as they call him, in his very colorful suit, and the president and Roxy. These were all things that there was much. President meeting some leaders here, also delivering his speech. And there was people sedition from across North America converge in New York. And people say, well, it was like the second coming of Jesus. That's how one of the sedition described it. We see that it was so, they were in the rain and all of that. I saw our chief political analyst, Mr. Wilmon Wetikuni, was all into it. So the question I have, most of these things that dominated the trip of the president that people were talking about Robert, let me start with you. Were these distractions, were they necessary for people to point them out about the president dog, about Finda Bono, about Candy Crush, switching seats, and all the things that I showed? Or were these things, things that should really make the news? What's your feeling?
Well, Dennis, we are in a political season, so I'm not surprised that these are making headlines. But let me say this though, look, there are more pressing issues concerning our country, and I think that when we are having all of the different issues that my dear friend Morris just spoke on, I think it's trivia to make headlines when the first lady is playing Candy Crush. Look, it's the optics of the first lady of Liberia caught on camera playing Candy Crush at the UN on the day that her husband, who she went to support, wasn't speaking. Is the optics bad? Absolutely, it's bad. But come on, are we making this headline news that the first lady is playing Candy Crush? It's ridiculous from our perspective. Look, do you know how many events that I've been to? And I tend to be a very professional guy, where I'm caught on my phone watching Manchester United game. And if I was at the United Nations, and I don't care who was speaking, I probably would not like to get caught on camera watching Manchester United game while there's a speech going on. But we are human beings, folks. Our cell phones are our best friends. We go to our cell phones to do things when we are bored, when we are whatever the case. I'm not sure what was going on in her head, right? But the first lady playing Candy Crush could have been anyone. It could have been Joseph Boakai's wife. It could have been anyone. It could have been anyone. And so, personally, I don't think that should have made headline news, and I don't take that seriously. It's trivia. It's inconsequential. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, with regards to the chief of protocol of the president's office having a Louis Vuitton bag, the way she had it, I don't think that's a good look. I don't think that's a good look. But again, playing the devil advocate, if you looked at Ms. Bendu, she has not always been on the formal side. But if I was the president of Liberia, I think there has to be a conversation held there. Look, at the end of the day, this is a woman who is responsible to direct things in the office of the president. And it's right that when you're on these important trips, when you go into these formal events, you have to dress accordingly. And to see her in New York City, where there's a high level of security, I don't know. My first reaction, I thought she was somewhere in Don Wallace side with the bag in front of her, fear that someone might correct her mistake if the bag was in her back. I mean, you're in New York. I mean, that's a high level of security. There's absolutely no reason to be walking around with the outfit she had on, with a Louis Vuitton bag in front of her. I don't think that was presentable at all. But other than that, I would not take the first lady playing Candy Crush seriously. It's a trivia event. It's a trivia. It's very trivial.
And so, Vero, what do you make of all the optics from everything, the pictures that we've shown so far?
Let me just say, I don't know the journalistic knowledge and experience of everybody, but I do know about you, and I do know about myself. But in journalism, we take there are 8 elements of news. One of them is strangeness. Strangeness means it's the first lady who goes to the United Nations conference, assembly, and the president was given 8 minutes to speak. And even while the president was speaking, and she would choose to look at Candy Crush to play game while the president of the Republic of Liberia was speaking, it shows the unseriousness of the people that are leading us. I would have made it a big headline. That's what we call news. That's one of the elements of news, strangeness. And it combines 2, eminence and strangeness. So, to be honest, this is the worst thing. Look at the picture you just showed of Finabombo. Look at how she wore the backpack on the front side. Look, somebody who represents the office of the president at a very high profile conference, and you appear very casual and irresponsible, and somebody say it's just a mere distraction. Well, as a journalist, my training, that tells me it would have been a headline. Listen, when the president makes a big speech, he say all the big things. The activities that surround the president are more news catchy than the president's speech. Let me tell you, anybody that understands journalism, we go for the strangeness. We go for things that happen that normally should not have happened. So I believe,
Mr. Jero,
yes.
what does Finabono backpack? What does it add or take away from the purpose of the UNGA when it comes to Liberia and the presence of the president and his delegation?
When the office manager or one of the prominent individual in the office of the president dresses like somebody who is in the streets, who is a grown-up boy, and it's not presentable, it doesn't mean anything. Of course it means something. That is why we need decent people in the office. People who say, Fina, you can't dress like this. Go and wear something. That backpack, put it, leave it in the car. We'll come back and get a backpack. What is in that backpack so much? Okay, and you wear on the front. Look at everybody that went. I saw the pictures of people who attended the assembly. I didn't see anybody, even the sweeper in the assembly, wearing backpack in the front and walking with the president. This shows the kind of seriousness that we are talking about. It may be distraction to Weahists, those who are Weah followers. It may be a distraction, but this is what people look at and say, but these people are not serious. To be honest, look at the way the other people dress. I mean, I can give them some credit. Look at the way they dress nicely with their coats, and Finabomo come and bring a backpack and put it in front of her, and then she expect to walk in front of the president and conduct business in front of the president, and you say that distraction is not newsworthy. I would have made that newsworthy. In fact, I didn't know why the newspaper in Monrovia did not take Finabomo picture and make it a big front page story, so that next time when she go to this kind of program, she will understand that she is in a VIP delegation. She's not going there by herself. If Finabomo had come to America to just chill in America, we don't care what she does. But when you are on a VIP trip to an internationally acclaimed program, you dress to represent the individual you follow and the country that you represent. That kind of dressing shows a responsibility and very slappiness in the officials. Those are some of the reasons why George Weah, and I wanted to say something about George Weah say no political prisoner. Of course, no political prisoner. When 4 auditors are dead, how would they be prisoners? They cannot be prisoners because they are dead. You said in Monrovia, and 4 auditors of your own government were killed in cold blood. No one human being have been arrested and prosecuted. And you said no political prisoner. Of course, you don't have political prisoner because 4 auditors who may have been a problem to you are dead. Therefore, no political prisoner. We don't boast about this kind of thing. This is a charade for somebody to boast about that. Okay?
Thank you. Dr. Boto, and you can comment on that, but my additional question to you here is, you were talking about accomplishment. Do you really think that what is achieved by the president and his delegation coming to New York couldn't otherwise be achieved by the Liberia's permanent representative to the UN?
Thank you. When I said that the president meeting the president of the United States, let me bring something to your knowledge. When Trump was in power, you and I read or heard on news that Turkey spent $21 million to lobby for the Turkish president to meet Trump at the time. You have several lobbyists around DC or in the great United States to ensure that they have good relationship in DC.
Our government has been lobbying too, so it's not just Turkey.
Yeah, I'm coming there.
Okay.
They spent $2 million to lobby.
Hold on.
I'm coming.
Only I can interrupt.
Because most of you guys stated some things here with no statistics, where most of the comments were just blanket comments. But I'm now giving you example that Turkey spent $21 million to have good relationship with the United States and several other countries. Mm-hmm. Why? Because America is a pay sector for anything in the world. And meeting world leader at that level tells you that the leaders have confidence in the current government. It is based on confidence and what the government is doing that another country will want to foster relationship with the government. If Liberia was not in good standing, the great United States, the president of the great United States would not want to meet President Weah. And meeting them builds investors' confidence. But I want to first of all pinpoint to what my big brother Jerry was saying, that he's here to see what we are meant by distribution of wealth. Well, it is visible everywhere you go in Liberia. The construction of roads is a distribution of wealth. Free education at the tertiary level is in itself is a distribution of wealth, because it is the wealth of the country that is subsidizing the tertiary education. What will we say with the health sector, where hospitals are being built around the country? Where do they come from? They come from the country's coffer. Economic cannot only be seen simply because you're not seeing it, but the elements that will project the country to boom. That's what he's dealing with in the educational sector. You see, your tertiary institution, $10 million every year for subsidies alone. That could have been used for something else. The road, the highway between Ganta towards Grangy there is under construction right now. I can show you pictures in Second Pier. I was there. It's not the same. And since since 1847, that road had been ignored. What would I want to point to again? Peace. Look, we cannot take one instant and say there is no peace for 5 million citizens. One case cannot dictate what happens for 5 million citizens. 5 million citizens within Liberia, at least, are going about their business. That tells us that there is peace.
Thank you.
Tell me that there is no peace in New York, where, according to statistics, 4,000 gunfire every year? No. New York has 9 million citizens. So 4,000 gun death is a drop in the water. So when one thing happens, you cannot use one situation as a brush to pin everything else.
Thank
Let
you.
me come back to the pictures you were pointing to. Finabono. Yeah, Finabono. Can we look at the setting? Where was the picture taken? Nobody have asked that question. Because the setting dictates formality or informal dressing. Where was she? Was she at the UN or at the preparation? Because if you look at the background there, it is like a cardboard or maybe like a plastic behind them. That is not at the UN. That is not the UN. It's a different setting where the picture was taken. So everyone blow it out of proportion. You should be asking yourself, where was the picture taken? It's an informal setting. And then if you look at your faces, that tells you. So it's not a news for me. Right. The second one comes to the first lady. Before anything happens at a gathering, there is always that warm-up. Was anything substantial happening when she was playing it? Nobody has pointed to it that this person was speaking when she was playing game. All they know she was playing game. Come on, guys.
And here is Finabono at the UN, right behind the first lady.
Yeah. Is that the same dress code, sir?
I don't think so.
Thank you. So it means that it's a bad news. Her formal dress code right behind the first lady is different from what you see there.
So you have a point. Let me bring in Comrade Larama Yonton. And please forgive me when I call him Comrade. This is Comrade Adiolog. Comrade Yonton, before you come in there, I want to show a video of the president of the Republic of Liberia, somewhere and say arriving home, call this home, and trying to tell people that, hey, some people say I was restricted in New York, but come and see me. I want to show that video and then you can respond to
it. 4 years. Love you. Oh, back home. Well, good to be back home. You see all the cops there. They brought me home. I'm here. So those that said I will confirm, yes, a United Nations building, you are wrong. I'm a citizen of the world. Just came home. Tomorrow I'll be leaving for Liberia. Mission is
Mr. Yonton.
Okay, so it's amazing.
Is there anything wrong with that picture? The president is home, and that's Florida, I guess.
No, I found it incredible that Weah has the contract hat, but he doesn't have Rexkia have 4 years without your dog, when you can just go apply for it and reconnect with as president in Liberia. It shows some level of irresponsibility. If I have a dog, I wouldn't separate myself from my dog for 4 long years. So it's concerning. But that particular house is within 17 miles, which is within the 25 miles radar. It's quaint. It is not Florida. So we have to set that record straight, because we've done deep research into the location. We've identified that it's within the 25 miles radar of the United Nations. But there are a couple of things.
Where is that? If you can let us know.
It's in Queens.
Okay.
In fact, it is said to be the house owned by Weah. So it's not the president's house in Florida. So the record has to be set straight. But Dennis, let me take some time to correct some of the misinformation I've been hearing from my brother Boto and Robert, just in a few minutes. Number one, Turkey is a member of NATO. They've been part of NATO. They share strategic geopolitical alliance with the United States. I'm not quite sure what they would use that amount of money to lobby for, but it's understandable, right? That the population, the people of Turkey themselves, not the government, 80% of the citizens of Turkish do not trust America, do not believe in America, they do not like America. So it is understandable. When paired in comparison to Liberia, it's a different situation. This is our traditional partner we are talking about. We don't need that kind of money. We don't need those number of lobbying companies to lobby it, to seek the attention of the United States. I talked to Flag. My brother talk about hospitals being built. Where? I would love to see it. Please, with the exception of the 14th Military Hospital, where else has the Weah government built hospitals? We'd like to know. All right, I want to speak on Robert's point. It's fantastic, right? When Robert says that it is trivial and it's ridiculous for people to criticize, but at the same time he praising, the first lady, but also bashing on Fina Bono for a dress code. Wrong is wrong. Everything should be placed in the same basket. And permit me to say, right, in no serious government will we ever appoint Robert as permanent representative to the United Nations, because he's telling us that he'll be playing, he'll be watching menu, where diplomatic leaders of the world converge. It is a forum or fora for serious business. No one. If Inabono wanted to, if the first leader wanted to play Candy Crush, she had 5,000 miles flight from Liberia to the US, right? Why she couldn't use her boat time in the plane to play her Candy Crush? It doesn't make sense. When the world is confronted with the implications of post-COVID, economies of the world are in meltdown, just global recession, so to speak.
Mr. Yonton,
there is this whole. I come in 1 minute.
I just want to inject something quickly. If the president's wife is not playing Candy Crush, what else should she be doing? What does she bring to the UN?
She should not be there in the first place. So her presence is misplaced. She should not be there in the first place. We've seen a number of times that Obama addressed the United Nations. Michelle is somewhere doing all the things.
So you understand why she's on Candy Crush?
She should not. Yeah. So I thought to correct that for my brother Robert. Also, there's this thing about Robert and his ability to praise Weah for the peace, right? It's a good thing. The absence of war is relative peace. And that's what we need to understand. Liberia may enjoy a period, a post-conflict period of relative peace. But when the United States Agency for International Development Fragility conflict report on Liberia states that we are a fragile nation, it is true, right? When the Global Peace Index says that Liberia is not anywhere around some of the most peaceful countries in the world, it is true. When you imprison someone for 1 minute, there is a history of political imprisonment. Menapaka Tamar went to jail. He was a political prisoner under the same Weah government. Mo Ali went to jail. He was a political prisoner under the same Weah government. So what are we boasting of when we talk about there's no political prisoner? But also, like Big Brother Gibson said, there are political deaths on the record. The government has failed to protect the fundamental human rights and civil liberty of its citizens. And that's clear. Many human rights reports, comes year after year, have shown that this government lacks the ability to protect, to provide simple security for its citizens. And we are alluded to that. He said each citizen, Manjoa, that sells in Wallace Market should buy CCTV if she wants to protect herself. So what are we talking about?
Let me. Can I jump in, please? I think
No, I want Maurice to
Yeah,
come in.
Robert, you can't, Robert. You're not gonna monopolize anything.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Cromwell.
didn't respond to the thing you say, so let me say my own before you can tell your own. Yeah, I'm begging you, Chief.
Go
You
ahead.
know, I mean, you don't talk most of my talk, but I will just follow. I will walk in his shadow to address some of the things that you, Robert, spoke about, and what Dr. Boto also spoke about. I mean, you can pick and choose what is trivial and what is not trivial at the United Nations event. The reason people go to these events, usually, even before you get there, there is a whole line of activity that are planned. At what day, what time, how those things are supposed to happen. So when the president goes to the United Nations, he's not only going there to speak and deliver a speech and walk away. It's an excellent opportunity, like Yonton said in the beginning of the show, for the president to interact with other world leaders, to organize side shows where the president can talk about some of the burning issues that are happening in the country and how he can develop new partnership, new agreement with other countries, create investment opportunities. Those are the things that happen at side shows. President Weah was not the only president that took his wife to the United Nations. The Sierra Leone president did the same. He took his wife. But while the Sierra Leone president was busy in the hall trying to deliver a speech, his wife was organizing events with other world leaders to interact with them and talk about what is important for Sierra Leone. Our first lady could have done that. She could have, explored the opportunity of, finding ways that when they got into power dealer, she committed to bringing a factory that will do wig. For heaven's sake, it's been 5 years. We haven't seen this wig factory yet in Liberia. And somebody here telling me that it's okay for the first lady to be playing Candy Crush, but it's not okay for Finabono to wear, a backpack on her. I mean, both of them are bad image of the country. They're completely bad image. So, but more than that, Dennis, these people are using taxpayers' money to fly from Liberia to come here, and they are lodged in a hotel, and they are fed for the length of time they are here. And you're telling me that there's nothing wrong with that? You're exploiting and misusing public money. This is a crime in most developed countries because you are actually you are on this trip to represent a country and do something while you are away. It's not just to go and stay and play Candy Crush. So they are exploiting public resources while they're sitting in New York. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. We need to talk about that. And yet, Dalaboto talking about how President Weah is addressing some of the roads. He's fixing the roads and he's building hospitals around the country. Where are the roads that the president fixing? Where are the roads the president fixing, for heaven's sake? I mean, I went to Liberia. I was just in Liberia in April. I traveled. I didn't stop in Monrovia. I went all the way across the country. The road that you're talking about, Boto, that you're talking about from Ganta to Locatua, if I tell you the history behind that road, you're not even bring that conversation up again, Chief. I'm begging you. Don't even mention that road as a Weah project, because I am part of the technical team that started the whole initiative about that Ganta Locatua road. I know everything about it, and I can provide documentary evidence and signatures. So don't talk about road. Please find another road that you can point to say this is Weah Road. When Weah came to office, he said you're going to be a coastal highway from Grand Bassa County all the way to the southeast. We haven't seen that yet. The road that you're bragging also about from Banga to Menikoma, they're not Weah Road there. So you stop talking about these road things, please. The only hospital you can talk about is the 11 military hospital. The hospital that was built in Bombay County is a reconstruction of a hospital that was burnt. You can't use that as a claim to say you're addressing development. That's not what development is. What you earn, you fix what you earn, and then you build on what you already have. Weah has not done that. So please spare me this rap about we are fixing roads or we are building hospitals. There is still issues about. I just posted some data in the chat to talk about some of the issues with education in the country. There are still people in the country that don't have access to education. So you start bragging about all of these achievements. Nothing happened in that country. The whole thing is rhetoric. And every time we have the opportunity to come here to talk about these things, we need to be very factual so that our people can appreciate that I'm not a seditious. I do appreciate the fact that we have a representation of the United Nations. My president, George Weah, was there. He represented Liberia. I'm proud of that. But I also have issues with the president taking people that are exploiting public resources at their own, for their own selfish gain. We should talk about that.
Thank you. Dr. Bodo, I will give you 30 seconds because I just want you to be clear. Where do you think was Finda Bondo when she took these pictures? I want us to be clear about that. So we all know, because if you say this was maybe outside, maybe they were in in the market or in the mall or somewhere, please let us know. And also, when you talk about all these accomplishments, are you talking about outcome, or you're talking about just checking off? Okay, if building hospitals and all the things that you have named, let's say if you want to talk about hospital, have Liberians become better when it comes to healthcare? Are they getting well or are they getting sicker? If you talk about the education, are we doing well now when it comes to our output? Are we competing? Are we on par? So tell me about outcomes instead of just mere deliverables. Go ahead. You have 30 seconds to respond. Then we move to our next topic.
You pack your questions and let me just go straight to the point. Let me look at first of all,
let
me look at the picture. Okay, the picture. In every gathering, there will always be that room, that back room, where everyone can have informal meeting or informal discussions. And you yourself just show a picture where she was well seated, well dressed, different from what was happening at the background.
So what do you think the backpack is now?
Now that's what I'm telling you. Before the occasion, there is always informal interaction, and she, as a protocol officer, she is there to ensure that everything is well in place. So maybe, let me put it this way, maybe the work was so intense that she decided to work overtime. When you work overtime, you don't look at yourself until when you're ready now to go to get seated.
So she probably have a change of clothes in the backpack. Let's go to the next issue.
No, it's not a backpack, not from the backpack. It is not at the formal meeting area. Let's go to education that I mentioned. Yes, education, we can enjoy the dropout rate has fallen. After high school, there used to be
the data, please.
The dropout rate, people who could not afford to go to tertiary education, follow their education at the tertiary level. That rate has fallen because of free education that the government has instituted.
So when our children are performing better now, is that what you mean?
No,
out of college,
people are now having access to tertiary education.
access.
pushing the country's educational rate up.
Right. So if you go
Because-
to college and you're performing at a high school level, what good is it? So that's why I was interested in the outcome instead of just.
Okay, let's look at the outcome as well. Let's look at from Weah result. Liberia performed well. Liberia is performing well now.
Okay.
Because that should tell you that yes, in itself, the government is doing well. If you look at what happens 5 years back, then what is happening now, you will realize that yes, Liberia is improving. The educational sector is improving.
Thank
But
you.
what I'm trying to say is this.
No, let's let Robert get his 30 seconds, then we go to the next topic. Complete your thought.
Maybe Robert can help you, Boto.
What I want to say is this. The fact that more people used to drop out because they could not afford, that has been taken away. The blockage, the hindrance has been taken away for the poor lady whose son could not go to school back then, can now go to school. Regardless. Thank you.
No, let me say.
Dennis, can I ask you something quick before Robert come in?
Well, let me say this.
Yeah,
No, just take 30 seconds, then you on 30 seconds. Be very quick.
Well, they tell us they want to go. Come
Okay,
by.
What we just
Hold
heard.
on, let Robert go.
Oh, okay, Robert, go.
Well, I think the brother is completely off on this one. I think he's completely off on this one. Let's be clear. We went to war with Ellen Jones's administration when it came to education reform in Liberia. And my good big brother, who was then education minister, can attest to that. But make no mistake, like I said the last time on the drive, I don't think Liberia have really seen any government put together, and this is apolitical, put together a serious education reform policy that we can boast of. And I agree with Ellen this just one time when she said that in context, that she felt like the education system was a mess. When over 20-some thousand students failed the UL entrance exam. That has not changed under this government. In fact, I've said that I think it was a mistake that George Weah decided to appoint a man who does not understand what 21st century education really means in Professor Sonny. Right? There has been no serious education policy put forth by this education minister, by this government that has moved the needle. You talk about free education. You cannot talk about free education when there are thousands of students who are still paying registration fees. When there are other underlying fees that are attached to that, there's no such thing as free education. But Dennis, you didn't get my time. I was supposed to speak after Morris.
I was
supposed to speak after Morris, and then Morris spoke. I left. So allow me 1 minute. Allow me 1 minute.
You spoke first.
No. Robert, wait small, so we can talk.
Let me go to Larama. You got 30 seconds. We have two more issues to discuss.
I think what we just heard from Bodo is a classic example of a bunch of assumption, lack of facts and data. I would like to know personally, which data informs your position in terms of the number of students, university students have increased as a result of Weah's free school policy? I would like to know, because it's important for us to have this conversation, right? The thousands of people are listening to us today. They would like to know also, right? So Boto, please answer that question. Which data informs your position? Because as far as I do know, right, Eden made some strides in the educational system. They passed the new education law of 2011, which talk about student loan and all that stuff, right? They tried to move the institutionalized education in a way that we can move our system, build institutions, but also reform the curriculum. Our curriculum is still like a 16th century kind of curriculum, and we are in the 21st century,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
We need to bring it up to date, up to par. Most of our schools are not even ranked and rated among top schools in the region. That's a fundamental problem. If you look at the economy, you cannot discuss education without discussing the interconnectivity of youth empowerment and even the economy itself.
Yeah.
Most of what we are producing today across our universities are careers that the economy is not asking for. We are putting up more accountants. We are putting up more sociologists. We are putting up more managers. That's not what the economy is asking for today. We need to move into the sciences. What is this administration doing to promote STEMs in all of our
Thank
schools?
you.
Yeah. So this
Thank
is
you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia, and we are on Primetime Sunday. We're going to move to our next issue, which is this question of Congo-Country. Right? I was taken aback when I saw a post of a sedition, and every election cycle, we hear this thing about country people, indigenous people, Congo people, American Liberians. And so when I saw this post, I said, well, let's discuss this. Is this whole idea of Congo-Country every time? First of all, sometimes we lump everyone together and say Congo, but there were layers. There were some people that came from the United States. We kind of wrongly call them American Liberians. Someone pointed to me that it's wrong to say that because these people were not Americans when they went to Liberia, but just understand it within that context. There were people that were.
They are American Liberians. So that's a conversation we can have another day. They are American Liberians. Let's just go past that, please.
No, they are not, because they were not Americans when they went to Liberia.
Okay, but so you want us to talk about that? I can give you my thought about why they are American Liberians.
Right, we can talk about, and we can talk about also where that thing came from, where it originated.
Okay.
Then we have other that were recaptured Africans. They did not go anywhere. So that's another layer. And then we have the group that came from the Barbados, but we sometimes lump everybody together and say American Liberian. So let's, for the sake of argument, take all the different layers and say Congo people. But there is always this element that come out, Congo country. And I saw this post and I want to share it. This is by a seditian by the name of Christopher Tobasi. He said, now, if God is supposed to be good, kind, and merciful, then President Weah is the God of the indigenous people, country people all over the world. He is our God, believe me. We, the indigenous people, he's our God, believe that. And he signed it, Tobasi, Christopher Urati Tobasi. So the first thing I want to find out, I want to ask Dr. Boto first, is this idea that President Weah represent indigenous people, represent the interests of native people, country people. And there is this imaginary group, or there is this group called the Congo people that President Weah is fighting teeth and nail to really wrestle the country for. And that he's in the interest of another group called indigenous people. Is this something that is widespread among seditions, or is it people that are on the French elements in the CDC that are kind of saying this kind of thing?
Mr. Jai, I think, as I said before, a post or one person's writing cannot be used to define an entire group.
That's what I'm asking you. Do other seditions say this kind of thing? Do other seditions see President Weah as representing country people?
Coming. After 100 years, do we still have Congo and Native? A century, Liberia is more than a century old. Intermarriages, integration, movement of people, it's difficult to draw the line who is a Congo or who is a native. And that in itself, we cannot leave our history behind. Let me tell you. But that cannot be used to say this group of people are not part of us. I don't want to point at certain people within CDC that these people, they are Congo or not Congo. But CDC represents everyone, including whoever name you want to say. It's not for a particular group of people. It is the party of the grassrooter. When we say grassrooter, we are saying people who were not part of the elite class.
Which class you refer to as elite?
The elite class has to do with those who believe that, yes, indeed, they are entitled to rule Liberia.
You have some names?
Yes.
Yeah, what are the names? I want to write down.
First of all, let me go back to the two-way party. The two-way party was the only party that existed back in the days. So that mentality that, yes, the group of people that belong to the Two-Way Party are those supposed that.
Dr. Boto, I think you know that when Faulkner ran against Charles David King,
yeah,
so there were other parties, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it was not the only party that existed. Let's correct that.
Yeah,
that was said back in the days. I use the word back in the days. That back in the days, Two-Way Party was the only party that existed.
That was the ruling party, but there were other parties.
Yeah. But back in the day, then you should ask me now, where does it start from? Because you pointed to 1930, which was yesterday. Charles David King was 1930. And we're talking about 1847 towards 1930.
But 1847 Two-Way Party didn't even exist.
Right.
Yeah, we'll come back to another history of that.
Yeah,
That was a Republican Party.
exactly.
They were Republicans.
We will continue to
A lot of wrong history tonight.
if you bring the Republican, it also evolved into Two-Way.
No.
And Two-Way brought us toward 1930.
Republican.
Oh man, look at back in the history. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I'll carry your back. I say
Let me say history. But Dr. Boto, let me come to you straight now.
Yeah.
Do you believe, are there people in the CDC who believe, or how widespread is this belief? That
There is no. We
don't
don't believe in a divisive mentality that yes, this person is from here or there. CDC belongs to all.
Thank you, Mr. Jero. This whole concept of Congo-Country, is it something? What do you make of it, and how is it widespread when it comes to the politics? Remember now, in 2017, there was also chatter about Vice President Joseph Boakai talking about the same Congo-Country. So that's why I'm saying every time there is election, we hear these kind of things.
I think we should move away from this Congo-Country thing, because right now the government that is in Liberia, the president is a countryman, the vice president is a countrywoman, the minister of finance, Maxwell, the minister of finance is a country boy. The Minister of Foreign Affairs is a country boy. The Minister of Justice is a country boy, and the list goes on and on and on. The Defense Minister is a country boy, and 99% of the ministers are country boys. If you look in they look at the representatives. If I'm not mistaken, maybe 98% of them are all country people, and they send it the same thing. So where are they still coming from with this country and Congo? And listen. That politics worked when Ellen was there, because they consider Ellen as a Congo woman, and so they thought that Ellen was going to support Cummins, and so Cummins is Congo man. Therefore, they country and Congo, and this word that was carved by one of their propagandists, cartel. All of these things don't work. So if Councillor Gonglo go against George Weah, are you going to say Congo man for his countryman? If Joseph Boakai goes against George Weah, is that Congo? Look, it is a lazy argument today. It's a lazy argument. But I do believe that this word has stuck with them because they want to use the country Congo to still manipulate our people who do not understand the dynamics of the politics today. But we will not rest to inform our people that there's nothing like country Congo these days, because all the ministers, 99% are country boys. The senators and representatives are country boys. Everybody that work in the government, most of them are country boys. So the country boys are handling this stuff, and they are not doing well. So we have to replace them with another country boy. That's the whole bottom line. But they want to divert the attention from the actual problem, the mismanagement of state resources, the mismanagement of power, the mismanagement of what they do that affect the people, what they're supposed to do that will live the lives of the people. They fail to do that. George Weah have even soccer, my brother, soccer. George Weah, who is the king of soccer, FIFA suspended Liberian sports complex from participation in FIFA sponsored matches. They may also, we will expect to see that George Weah, under a George Weah administration, soccer will be the best in West Africa. Samuel Doe was far better than George Weah, but Samuel Doe was not a soccer player, was not like George Weah. But this man does not know how to manage
Samuel
soccer.
Doe was a soccer player, Mr. Jerry.
Yeah, he was a soccer player, but you're not like George Weah. That's why I said
You didn't go international.
All right.
like George Weah. But my brother, but Dennis, if George Weah cannot manage soccer very well, if he cannot even make soccer to flourish, what else do we expect him to do better that he's not expertise in? He has no expertise in other things. So there's all these money that is coming from UNDP, UNESCO, World Bank, African Development Bank that the people are using to do projects. They take it to be like government project. But we know where the money is coming from. The government got no project. These money are coming from bilateral and multilateral agencies that are funding money into the country, and they are still misusing them. And some of them have been napped, and there'll be more that will come.
Thank you. Mr. Gagwa, one of President Weah's former minister, Deputy Minister Eugene Fagon, used this Congo-Country divide very effectively. Yes. And President Weah was not talking until the diplomatic mission have to say, this guy is went too far. Before even when the House declared him non-government material, President Weah still didn't do anything about it. And this man was preaching the Congo-Country politics. Is this something that is that the president is kind of acquiescent to? Is it something that the CDC leadership is kind of playing blind? I say, well, if these guys continue, this may benefit us. Or are people, French elements in the CDC, kind of pushing this line? Like my own brother-in-law, Tobasi.
Well, Dennis, thanks for the question, but I'll take 30 seconds to just point out a few things they didn't get the opportunity to address. With regards to peace, look, the absence of gun doesn't necessarily mean peace, and I agree with that. But I think when you put Liberia's kids into context, though, I think we've got to be very careful. They are a contributing factor with regards to the national security issues we have in our country. There are security issues, serious security issues that we have in our country that does not necessarily breach politics. And until this government has not successfully done that, but until we actually rehabilitate the folks we call Zogos, until we begin to give young men and women the opportunity to work, earn their own money, until we educate the folks that are needed to be educated, we will always have these issues. Because when you have a population where almost 75% of its youth are not only illiterate but are unemployed, what you have is the increasing crime rate. So we have a crime rate issue in our country. We can talk about the politics, but I think that there's a need for us to seriously address the rehabilitation of ex-combatants. It's important for us to address this issue with regards to making available opportunities to employ folks, so that you don't have the level of crime rate that you have. When people are afraid to walk the street, when people are afraid to go home after a certain time, it's not necessarily because someone does not agree with the politics. These things exist, right? But it also plays into this thing about there are folks out there who will correct a mistake, however way you look at it. So we have got to address that issue. Look,
you're speaking my language
country,
now, Robert.
Yeah, he just agree with us just now.
Exactly.
They're not strong of peace.
Please don't interrupt.
I love these two guys, and Murray. These are my brother, and they want to put words in my mouth, but I will not let them do it. But look, let me go to this Congo and country. I think as a juror, when I hear you describe folks in government as country boys, it plays into this narrative that divides us. Right? It's an insult. There are native Liberians, and of course, there are folks who are connected with this whole American thing, given our history of free slaves resettling in Liberia, right? But we have to be very careful how we describe people. We are all Liberians. Who are the country boys and who are the Congo boys? Do you know that people describe me to be part of the elite? Do you know that I'm seen as a Congo boy? Do you understand the nature of a Congo? You know why I'm seen as a Congo boy? You know why other Liberians who left Liberia and have done well in other countries will go back home and they're looked at as a Congo boy? You know why? Because we speak different, we speak good English, and maybe we got a little bit of money in our pocket. In Liberia, the folks that I describe are Congo.
Robert, you don't have that little bit of money. I don't know.
The point that I'm making, Dennis, is that it doesn't make sense. It's not even making sense right now in this 21st century. People see you're educated, okay, you speak standard English, you got money, and they look at you as, oh, this guy is a Congo boy, as opposed to speaking the regular way, right? And so there's no definition as to who is Congo and what actually makes them Congo as opposed to who is country, right? And so we have got to stop this. I think what this does is further divide us. We've got to stop describing people as country boys and country girls and country men and country women. We are Liberians. The people in charge of government right now are Liberian
Right.
citizens. They may
But
come from different ethnic
Robert,
backgrounds. They may not be as educated and eloquent as we are, but at the end of the day, they are Liberian. How
but
many of our
Robert,
population? Yeah,
Robert, those in power, have they done enough to be able to squash this kind of thing, or they are benefiting from it and so they are acquiescing?
I think Weah has made many mistakes, and I think one of his many mistakes points to the gentleman you just spoke to. Who in his right mind would have appointed a man with 4 AA degrees, one, a man who self-proclaimed to be a political scientist but was beaten to his own political to his own game, never seen that before, unprecedented, right? A man who only qualification in media or public speaking started on social media, and a man who did not initially think Weah was the guy. Look, this man should have never been appointed to begin with. This man should have never been allowed to speak the way he spoke. We are played into this thing, yeah, and again, the people in office, we can talk about what they haven't done. That's not my point. My
No,
contention there
Robert,
is,
you're not answering my question.
what is
Yeah,
your question?
yeah, I'm saying because Weah is benefiting, so he's playing a blind eye to it. Is that a true statement?
Politically, it could possibly be, Dennis. But again, my contention is, when do we stop this? It doesn't help us as a country. The same divide has in our country right now, where we have qualified our qualified Muslim brothers and sisters. Do you know what is happening behind closed doors when it comes to giving these guys the opportunity to function in our society the way they should function? It's because there's this narrative that Liberia as a country is not ready for a Muslim leader at the highest level. It's wrong. We've got to start looking at folks from a national perspective, who they are. They're Liberian first. Their religious background, affiliations, their ethnic affiliations should not
Thank you.
define who they are, should not define what role they play. It further divides us, and it's wrong.
Thank you. Yonton, you believe that Robert really does not want to hold the Weah government accountable when it comes to this Congo country? Do you agree?
No, I
Let
don't
me
think he
agree.
agrees.
Let me
I don't
let
think
me
he
agree
agrees.
with Robert. Let me agree with Robert on the point that there is a cultural dynamics that is part of the undertone of this entire conversation. The general public sentiments shared by ordinary Liberians as it relates to the discourse on Congo native varies at different levels. Um, if you talk to a a person from the village, the way they see this Congo native divide will be different from someone who have been in Monrovia or gone to school. All right, and much different from how politicians play into it. That's the first point I wanted to make. On that aspect, I agree with Robert. The second point, before getting into my own position on this, is to talk about this whole idea of political elitism. It's not based on entitlement. Every citizen, so one way or the other, that's actively involved into politics, feel entitled to a certain level to state power, and that's why the guys who are in power right now feel that they have done so much that they deserve to be re-elected, right? That's a sense of entitlement, just as we saw with the Unity Party 12 years, and just as we saw with other governments. So political elitism is just about a cycle of politicians who feel who wield power to themselves, control the winds and caprices to their own advantage, right? But this is my take. It appears to me that every time a a native son of the soil gets to the highest power of our political echelon, we start to hear this whole native Congo divide. We have about 40 years since 1980, or to be exact, 42 years. We heard this when Doe and his people got the power. and how they use this Congo native narrative to their own advantage. We've seen it again with the CDC. Since the emergence of the CDC, even as CDC as opposition, this narrative has not gone away. We have to trace back into the history. There are many statements made by Jeff Kochi on Native Congo when they were in opposition. So it's not just recent that Eugene Fagon has elevated the conversation. All right, we've heard it from many seditionists and leaders within the party. The CDC party have not made public statement, denouncing or distancing themselves from this. So it shows that this is a unique party strategy that is unfolding right before our eyes. Weah endorses this narrative of Native Congo. There's not been a time, even when he was peace ambassador, to say, okay, we are all Liberians, and this is what we want for our country. One Liberia. There's no Congo Liberia. There's no native Liberia. Weah has not denounced it. No member in the senior hierarchy of the party, of the CDC party, has denounced it. So it's clear to show that this is, by design, a CDC's political strategy to win and sustain themselves in power. And this is scary, very scary, when politicians assumed the responsibility of ensuring that they used Congo native narrative as a dragnet to maintain and sustain themselves in power. I'm a native son of the soil. I'm from Southeast. Even though I go against Weah, but I do not believe that our country that has gone so much turmoil, we're still trying to rebuild Liberia. We still have not put reconciliation on the national front. To continuously divide the country on the basis of Congo native, on the basis of tribe, on the basis of regional politics is just distasteful to the highest degree possible. And we call on leaders to begin making public statements announcing these things. It is serious, and these are things that lead the country back into the old days.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Krumah. And Mr. Krumah, the layer I want to add that is Laraman may kind of made a reference to it that anytime the one we see as a countryman in power, there is a feeling that there are certain group who think this man shouldn't be there. Who is he? And as a result, the so-called native will use that, say, oh, they don't want to see us. Do you see that too as something that is giving rise to this entire country-Congo divide?
I think, previous shows we talked a little bit about this on the periphery, and I want to come back to it. I want to take a little point of departure from what Yonton was saying, that it's at different layers. When someone is educated, they seem to have the narrative of Congo native in a different way. I don't seem to believe that. I've seen some of the most educated Liberians take on this debate and hold onto it and say, and I like the way Robert put it. It's not just a Congo native thing. It's even ethnic. It's even religious. It's a national thing. People are really passionate about it, and I don't think it's just Liberia, though. Let's face it. Even in Ghana, Nigeria, there are ethnic politics, that play into the broader national politics. That it's normal in Africa. Same as in the US, where there is politics of race, and gender and all that stuff. What makes it dangerous for us is that, when the 80s came around, when Doe came to power, the majority of the people, to be honest, were marginalized. They were the native people, and they were marginalized. Let's face that. But when Doe took over in 1980, between 1980 and 1990, that 10 years, he also marginalized people that were inside the native groups. So now people started forming smaller ethnic, allegiance over the whole native agenda because they were not framing themselves in that bigger picture. That's how we took a point of departure from our national identity into our smaller ethnic groups. So now the larger ethnic groups are the ones that feel more entitled than the smaller ones. And usually the smaller groups are the ones that are marginalized, and people step on them and say, oh no. So when my man Robert talked about how some Liberians, oh, I mean, a Muslim man, like, bro, you ready for a Muslim man right now? Even if you make the Muslim man minister a problem, because you will bring all the Muslim people then there. Yep. So some group of people feel more entitled to the state than the other. That is just the fact of it. But it's also the conflict also fed, deeply into that. So the Liberian conflict contributed to it now is even deeper than we have it. And like Yonton said, we need to have a conversation about national reconciliation. How we address that. Weah and his team don't have the capacity to address that. I can tell you that boldly. Ellen struggled with to have a national conversation because, to be honest, she was, somehow connected to the conflict. So it's difficult to have a conversation about reconciliation when you are directly involved with the conflict. So that national discussion has to happen where we actually talk about what it means to be a Liberian, and that nationalism should take precedence over our religious, our ethnic identities. It's a
Well
difficult
said.
discussion, but it
Well
should
said.
happen. Yeah.
Well said, Morris. Well said.
Thank you. And President Weah, who was perceived as neutral, now they are drawing his foot into it. They say he's supporting Model and the rest of it.
Can you give me 30 seconds so I can respond to what Robert said?
Yeah. Use 30 seconds. I got to be fair to you.
Robert, you play in this politics thing, you play the ball in the people's court and beat them out of there. They are saying George Weah is a king and God of the native people. The question is, they are telling us that George Weah, mother and father are Liberians, and they are crew women and crewmen and Bassa woman. Therefore, he's a native, and therefore he's a god of the native. I'm also telling them, if you think that George Weah is native because his father is crew, his mother is Bassa, Councilor Gonglo's father is Mano, his mother is Pele. So is Joseph Boakai's mother and father. They are also Liberian, the same thing. So the issue of Congo and country doesn't lie today because the people that are the hem of power, and George Weah is enjoying it because it plays for him. They are targeting commies. They are targeting commies. That's what they are doing. But it doesn't work today. It worked for the first time, but it's not going to work today. And that will end very soon because that Congo-Country thing, most of us are beyond that thing already. We are beyond this tribal cliche, this ethnocentric attitude, this segregative attitude. We're not part of it these days. We are collaborating and we are cutting across lines. That's what I meant, Robert.
Dennis, give me 20 seconds though. Look, my mom is crew woman, and my father is the Bassa man. They're from the interior, right? But my last name is Gagwa. But a lot of times I'm referred to as a Congo man. And look, I think that we clearly have an identity crisis in our country. What I'm saying though is it doesn't help unite us. We should look at each other as Liberians first before we go to the ethnic and the religious part of our affiliation.
Thank you. People have been asking, where is VP Joseph M. Boakai? Is he, as in the CPP framework document, is he visible and active? And so I saw a picture where somebody said, like JNB is kind of showing his Boakai stroke, but I don't think that's the case. And then JNB was also in Ganta, and I see Comrade Alaro Togwa standing tall behind him. So, but he's not as active, some may agree, as he should be if we have almost just a month going into elections. Where is JNB? Is he taken from the Weah playbook that, the people will take me anyway? I don't have to do debate. I don't have to be all over the place. I mean, there are people behind me who will take me. I'm the elderly statesman. I got Lofa. I got a Unity Party behind me and all that. I want to start with Mr. Larama Yonton, who supports JNB. Give us some update on JNB and why and how visible is he? What are his chances against President Weah, unseated President Weah, with this level of engagement? Talk to me.
So JNB was recent in Limba, and you saw the level of enthusiasm.
Yeah, that is like one time for like a couple of months.
Yeah, the mass popular support shown him in Limba County, supposedly to be maybe quote unquote Delon Conglo's stronghold. And we have no objection to his to his run and his candidacy for presidency. He's a progressive. JMB has been involved. The thing about politics, it's not coming up every day to speak on issue. You have to strategize. You have to build different teams and network. Um, the Unity Party has just transitioned with a new leadership. That new leadership has been having cross sections of meetings with different Liberians and different institutions. So JMB is been saying through the function of these different organs, like the tag team. We've been very engaged too as well. Um, we have been setting up different cells in different counties.
That what happened to Weah, right? People were doing the work for him. Is JMB playing from the Weah playbook?
No, JMB cannot play from Weah's playbook. Weah is just inherently empty. You can't compare JMB and Weah.
Yeah, what I mean,
Cannot
JMB is
be
what is
compassionate.
articulate, but he's
Yeah,
not
so
speaking.
so it's not possible. But part of the reason is that the strategy has to draft the action, and that's what I'm leading to, right? So the new leadership has been working on plans, and more you're going to see JMB out there. In fact, there's a planned visit of the vice president, the former vice president, to the U.S. In next month, the end of next month, and you'll see more of those activities as time unfolds.
Mr. Kroma, where's JMB? Is he doing enough?
Um, that's a very good question. So I do think the former VP needs to do a lot more than he's doing. Elections usually is about numbers. It's about galvanizing support. It's about inspiring people. It's about building having new people join you, whether you talk to them or not, just because they heard you say something. The first time, some of us started paying attention to politics, when we started listening to somebody like my family, I'm like, damn, this guy speaks so well. So that kind of inspiration is what voters look for. When you talk about when a young woman die mysteriously in Liberia, you expect somebody who wants to be president to speak about it and say this is wrong. The state needs to pay attention to this, especially somebody who have served in public office. Um, I saw the video of his visit to Kanta today, and I thought it was really good. It was really remarkable. Whether that's going to translate into votes for him, I can't say because I don't know. But politics is about numbers. I think he needs to do a lot more. This election, to be honest with you, is the election for GMB to lose again, unless there are efforts to really mobilize and inspire people and get people, because people are angry. Whether we agree or not, the economy is bad. People are scared about their lives. Security is terrible. Education is a mess. Healthcare is completely ruined. So people are looking for alternative. And JMB is the one they can connect with because he's been there. But he has to work to show that he actually deserves it. It's not going to come easily. He has to work very hard. I think I think he can do it, but he has to work a little harder than he's doing.
Dr. Boto, whom does the CDC government fear the most? Now, the JNB is saying, because JNB went into the second round with now President Weah, and JNB has said that the people saw that he was defeated by President. People are now having a second thought, buyer's remorse, if I may say, that, oh, how did we miss this man and see what we got? So because of that, a lot of people coming to him. With the level of JNB, how are you guys scared?
I'm not laughing because I just want to laugh, but if you take a rare wine and put it in a black glass or in a transparent glass or whatever glass you put it in, is the same rare wine. GMB was there 12 years ago. GMB came with a renowned world economist, and today they did not leave no element, nothing to show that yes, they have productive element that will support the economy we have today. GMB was there 12 years ago. Mysterious death you're talking about. I don't want to go into that, but what happened at the beach? GMB was there 12 years ago. What is he bringing back that will be different now? What has he said? What is he telling the people? What is his story? Nothing. So we are not scared. It even helps us more than before. Because GMB, who was there before, corruption was rampant. The president, President Saliv, admitted that yes, she's responsible for the disappearance of $30 million at Nuka, which of course he was part of the government, and he was second in command. If I'm to list some of the things, the ill of the past, we will not leave today.
So which opposition?
Dennis, can I address some of the things you talked about?
Yeah, hold on, Dr. Boto. So which opposition figure will pose more threat to President Weah, you think?
Do you go for fragility or you go for whole? The entire opposition camp is fragile. So who are we afraid of? It's fragile. We have, if they were to hold together, let me be objective, okay? During the time of CPP, that was where we had opposition. But CPP is gone, it's dead. So right now, we have nothing to lose.
Thank you.
So Dennis, I mean, I think
I just want to correct some things that Boto said.
Yeah, but I think it would be fair for me to speak.
You guys can come.
That Boto spoke about, and I want that Boto to understand that it takes a leader to admit that something is wrong inside your administration. It's actually a good
admit without nothing happening.
Give me a chance, Chief. You spoke. I didn't cut you.
Morris, go ahead quickly because
I just want 30 seconds now, just to address some of the
30
things that you talk about. It takes leadership to admit that you, as a leader, did not do well in certain area. That's leadership. It's not a weakness. What Weah has not done, you talking about 30 million on Noka. Weah has not admitted to a single mistake, whether it was the printing of banknotes, whether it was the mysterious death of auditors, whether it's we can go on and talk about everything that happened in 5 years. You talk about one allegation of somebody dying on the beach. Let's talk about the secret killings that have happened on Weah in 5 years. 5 years. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was president for 12 years. You point to one.
I didn't point to one. We're talking about a trend where Harry Greed connected to the issue of Nuka. This died mysteriously.
Okay, so Harry Greed died.
Eyewitness.
So Harry Greaves died. Who was the mysterious death that happened after Harry Greaves?
Before Harry Greaves, the first one was Allison.
Okay.
Allison.
Allison.
We got a point. Let me go to Robert and then
let me do 7 seconds. Right?
Hold on,
give this information. I think it's good.
Mr. Yonton. Okay. Let Robert speak for 2 minutes and then you can come in before.
Okay. I'll tell you.
Robert, two minutes. Where is GMB?
Look, the fact of the matter is, look, I personally don't support GMB. It's only because I think that I want to use the rest of my life to push the idea of young people who understands 21st century leadership, who understands that in order for our country to move forward, we have to prioritize in changing our curriculum and education reform. We have to prioritize science, math, and technology. Look, I think we're so far behind, and in as much as I respect his service to the country, I think he's done his bit. I think he's played his role, and I think it's time for other leaders to come on. But we cannot deny the fact that Joseph Boakai is a top opposition candidate, right? But the question I think those who support him should be asking is, which you asked, where is he? Has he been aggressive enough? Look, we talk about 3 sanctions. These are not small sanctions. Where were the protests led by the opposition leader, right? There are major issues going on in our country. Where are the press conferences? You know, we expect him to be on the campaign trail talking about these issues every day. You don't necessarily have to wait for official campaign to start to have press conferences, to have town hall meetings. And, and I don't think he's been aggressive enough. And I think being aggressive enough will also help dismiss this idea that he's old and he's tired and he needs to retire, right? It's a political strategy that works for him and he is favored, because if I support him and a guy who is 45 years old comes and tells me, well, Joseph Boakai is old, he needs to retire, I mean, the number of activity this man is doing, you know, speaks to the contrary of that, right? But I don't think he's been active enough. And what he's been doing, his silence, the fact that he's been muted on a lot of different issues, people can argue that this was the same Joseph Boakai under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf 12 years ago, and there's no excuse as to why he can speak now, because he was in the position of vice president and he couldn't say certain things. Now he's in a position where you have all right to be aggressive on this government. You have all right to criticize this government, and beyond that, you have all right to perforate your ideas, your vision for Liberia, and what you do differently. And I haven't seen that done yet from him. But one last point I want to make is this: Joseph Boakai will have to, and this is an unsolicited advice. I want to see Joseph Boakai convince people like myself that this is his unity party now. Ellen Johnson Unity Party has gone. They done what they're supposed to do, they're gone. This is not Joseph Boakai's Unity Party. People who still have reservations that he was part of for 12 years that could have done more. He was a part of 12 years that came with a lot of baggages. He now have to draw the line and say, look, and Morris is right. And this is what George Weah hasn't done. Admitting areas where you've been weak, it doesn't mean that you're a weak leader. It actually points to the fact that you recognize where you need to improve. Joseph Boakai has not publicly. In 2017, he failed to do that, and I have not seen him done that now. He has not publicly said, this is what I will do differently than Ellen Johnson Sirleaf didn't do in 12 years. He needs to say that. This is how you draw a distinction. When people say, what would you do differently? When people try to tie him to Ellen Johnson 12 years, and the argument is that, well, I was just vice president, well, now you are going to be president. Now you are leader of the Unity Party. Now you have the voice. You can make decisions. What would you do differently? Draw that line. He has not done that, and until he does that, there will always be this question about, is Joseph Boakai the same as Ellen Johnson Sirleaf? Would he lead the same? Would he do things the same? And would he make the same decisions that she did? And I think he has to answer that question.
Thank you. Larama, hold your thought. Let me go to Gerald, because you have to defend things. Oh, Mr. Gerald, where is JNB? Yes. There were sanctions here, and President Weah tried to kind of play catch up to the U.S. We also saw the July 26 incidents where Comrade Walter Sisulu civilly was brutalized, and we don't know where the case is now. Also, there was this bitter exchange of letters between ABC and GMW. In all these things happening now, the president is, we saw Finabondo's backpack, they are here. Where is JNB? Is he doing enough?
You know, what I'm going to say here today, I am in the process of writing Councillor Gonglo to approach JMB to go as vice presidential candidate. That is the party, that is the candidate, the ticket that's going to beat George Weah outright. JMB
who should be the VP?
The JM Boakai should be the VP to Councillor Gonglo. It's not about age. People should not look at age, because if it's age, Obama will not be president and Joe Biden will not be vice president. We look at the viability, the young thinking that comes, the new ideas that people bring onto the table. As JMB is, I'm not sure too much. You know, and you said it right. I think George Weah is rejoicing. If JMB goes as presidential runner-up to George Weah walks away with another 6 years. Because right now, what is happening is NIMA, which is the top breaker for all presidential elections in recent time, is heavily leaning towards George Weah if Chairman Gonglo is not in the race, if he's not going for runner-up. If JMB goes against George Weah, I'm telling you, George Weah is president for another 6 years, because Senator Johnson is very highly respected in NIMA, and you will tell the Nibians, JMB cannot bring new thing. He got no new idea. They were there for 12 years. Let's go with George Weah. It better would be with the devil we know than the angel who is coming. And the Nibian will listen to him. George Weah is president. If Cummings becomes a runner-up, the same thing. They know the reason why, because they destroy themselves. They see people stab each other in the back. I'm not here to talk nasty about the opposition, because at some point in time we'll collaborate, and I will be in support of the collaboration. So I'm not here to talk nasty, but the only viable chance that we have right now to remove George Weah and put a new, dynamic, clean, and integrity government is when Councillor Gonglo is in the runner-up, and all unity partisans, ANC partisans, Liberty Party partisans, I'm asking them for them to think about supporting Gonglo, because Gonglo is the only answer. Look, JMB is old, 82 years old, and still trying to be president of Liberia. I don't see why. I see my big brother and professor Alari Toba beyond JMB. Do you really believe that Alari Toba believe that JMB has new ideas he can bring onto the table? But they want to be the decision makers. You think Gafon doesn't know that JMB is old and will not be able to run the government? Because Gafon wants to be one of the people who will run. If you think, let me just say this, and I said it before for Cummings, and people didn't believe me. I said Cummings was swimming with dangerous sharks, and you people saw what happened to Cummings. I'm telling you today again, if you think Magay has been powerful in Georgia government, elect JMB and see what Gafon is going to be. Gafon is going to be the most powerful man in Liberia, because JMB will only rely on Gafon and Professor Alari Toba for them to run the government. So, you want to say something like a break?
Can you give me 30 seconds, please? Just 30 seconds. Look,
I can give you.
As a Gonglo supporter, though, and a strategist, right? And I want to respect your position. Look, this is a moot argument. You know, this old argument will not work. The election of Joseph Boakai would not be based on his age. Make no mistake. Look. If you want Joseph Boakai to win this election, right? If you want Gonglo to win this election or have any part to play, look, I personally think that he's more so advocating for a VP slot than he is for a presidential election. Because the fact of the matter is, not only does he not have the money to win an election and to campaign an election, he doesn't have the numbers, right? But is he a valuable candidate? Can he add something to a Cummings ticket or Joseph Boakai ticket? He's an experienced man. But again, you have the right to make a case. But this whole argument that, oh, Joseph Boakai is old and that this person will be more popular running the government, well, others can argue that George Weah is illiterate or he doesn't know what he's doing, and there are folks around him who are running the government, right? Let's stop this kind of argument.
Okay, thank you. So let me come back to my point.
Thank you, Robert. We got to bring in our caller. So Gibson, any 30 seconds.
I want to come my point before you come to a point, and I just want to give you this. Let me tell you, my brother, let's not deceive ourselves. If you say here today on this public forum that Councillor Gonglo does not have the numbers, then I don't know what kind of numbers you are talking about. In fact, Councillor Gonglo has numbers more than JMD.
How can you prove that?
Wait. You said what?
How can you prove that?
Gonglo has numbers more than JMB. Because I can tell you for sure, you cannot compare a 233,000 people to a 448,000 people that are prepared to vote for their sons. That is an argument that you cannot make anywhere.
Gibson,
so even if nobody vote for
okay, let me come in.
Hold on, let me finish. Even if nobody else voted for
now you're doing monologues of the whole conversation.
Hold on. Let me finish.
You call me off.
Yeah. I was speaking. And your thought for 20 seconds. Let Arama come in and I'll bring in my colors.
Thank you. So please protect me because you guys are speaking. I didn't talk. If Gonglo did not have any other vote in Liberia from anywhere, he can pull at least 75 to 80% of NEMA vote. That is sine qua non.
No.
And that 75 or 80% vote that he is capable of pulling in NEMA County, I don't see how Nibans will see the most clearest, the most nearest choice to produce the first elected president, and they will say we'll not vote for him, we'll go vote for George Weah or we'll vote for JMB. As a matter of fact, JMB will have probably NEMA. Last election, he made a deal with them to produce a vice presidential candidate, and he deceived them and told Nukwe. This is the issue Liberians are discussing now. So it is not possible for JMB to even pull vote for Nima. They took people from Morovia and took them to Ganta. The blood of bosses went to Ganta to go and grace the situation to make it look like there are a lot of people follow JMB. Is that why you call popular? All right. It's not true.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. If you want to be part of the conversation, please call the number on the screen. I already have callers on the screen there. So, Mr. Yonton, let's go. I give you a minute to respond, and then we bring in our first caller.
First of all, Congo has never been tested. The last time I saw that he was tested in an election was the by-election. There are less than 1,000 lawyers all across the country. So you can't use that as a litmus test for a national election. That's number one. The Prince Johnson factor in Nima still plays in favor of the CDC. All right. So you cannot say that he can win 80% of Nima in 2023. And then that's also, since you want to play the tribal card, that's also local where he's from, the ethnic group in Nima County he's from. All right. So you have to study all of the prevailing circumstances in order to make that determination. That's the point I wanted to make. I think he's a progressive brother. He's been around. He's been advocating for Liberians. We respect him, and we will not say anything ill about him. On the basis of age, I don't know how age is suddenly becoming a conversation in 2023. Cummins, 65 years old. Gonglo, 66 years old. They are outside our generation. So if you want to group people on the basis of age and talk about Joseph Boakai being too old, also be able to talk about Cummins being old, also be able to talk about Gonglo being old, and then we can have that conversation. But what Liberians need in 2023, it's not on the basis of age. Joseph Yoman Boakai has on many occasions clearly spelled out his policy for the presidency, right? In 2017, I did not support Boakai, but he had the policy of Rose, because he believed that it is the conduit to economic development. Robert said that, this man has not been able to distance himself from Madam Salif. What brought the problem with him? He said that he would end the culture of impunity. Apparently, you have not been. The fact that you don't support him means that maybe you don't, follow most of his interviews or something, right? But he said he would end the culture of impunity, right? He will go on to win the election and prosecute. First, begin with audit of the past leadership. He was willing to audit Ellen 12 years. And this is the fear for the, apologies of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, right? My brother Nkrumah is here. This has been the fundamental fear. That if a man who has worked successively, consecutively, 25 years in government without a stain of corruption allegation, is willing to disrupt the status quo, lead a vigorous process of cleansing of the system, run audits on previous government, and ensure that we end the culture of impunity for once that had been a cancer in our body politics, that's a progressive idea. So why would you question that this man has no new idea?
Excuse me. 20 seconds here. Let me tell you.
Thank you. Hold on, Gibson.
20 seconds.
Hold on, Gibson. I want Yonton to complete. Please land your thoughts. I want my callers to come in.
Okay. So you call me up from the beginning too. You call me on. So here's the 20 second. I don't know how old are you in 1988, but I was already a journalist. And being a journalist since 1988, I know that Joseph Boakai has been dismissed twice for corruption. One by hold on.
You know what? I just lended you a few seconds of my time, so I can take my time back. So I would listen.
I didn't even end my bread.
No, I got your point.
Dismissed twice for corruption. One by Emma Sawyer and one by Samuel.
Emma Sawyer, you were right here when just before Emma Sawyer died, right? He provided the clarity. It was not on the basis of
all right. Let me bring in my second my callers.
Let's listen to the callers.
Let's get the callers now, and then it will make based on what they're saying. The first caller here is Mr. Kesely Double. Mr. Double, you are live. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Double, you can turn off your sets so you can participate. All right. Benjamin Jonah, are you there? Go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Go ahead, Ben.
Hello.
Hello, Benjamin. Go ahead. You're live.
Hello.
Casali Double, are you there? Mr. Casali Double, are you there?
Check your mute button. Maybe you're muted on the phone or
No, it's
something.
not muted.
Yes, sir, Mr. John, I'm right here. How are you?
All right, go ahead, sir. You're live.
I am right here. Hello.
Yes, hello. Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Hello? Mr. John, I can't hear you.
Jesus Christ.
Check the mute button.
No, I can't hear you at all.
There's no mute.
No. Well,
Casali,
I'm
can you
not
hear
hearing
me?
anything from you.
Benjamin, can you hear me? Mr. Dusty Paul, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr.
Oh.
John?
Unmuted.
Oh, yeah, that was my bad.
Damn it.
I know I said check the mute button. I have that.
Okay, Ben Jonah, go ahead. You're live.
All right, thanks for having me. So, here's the thing, though. I'm confused with few of the panelists. My brother Jerome, quite recently, he was an ardent supporter of Georgia. He was saying all of these good things about Georgia. Here we are again today. He's on and other thing. I'm so confused about these people. But let me go to the point about the Fragility and the Kenneth Cross issue. I am speaking from the point as a professional photographer. You should know what I'm speaking of. The picture was a still picture. It's so funny how people can tell if there was anybody on stage at the time when that picture was taken. This is ridiculous of our people. This was not a video. You can't tell if there was someone on stage. So people should stop these crazy things and saying like they were playing Candy Crush. No, you can't tell. It's a still picture, people.
Thank you. But has the office of the first lady come up to say, hey, at the time I was playing Candy Crush, nothing was going on? Have we heard from the first lady?
She does not have to respond to that.
Why?
Because it's not important in the first place. She was not the diplomat. She was not the one who. Look, the president was the head of this nation.
All right.
Our question should be, what did the president achieve at this thing, at this program? And not the president on a phone. Guys, look.
Thank you, Ben.
Let me relax, man. The other side just giving the CDC gift every time. Giving them too much gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me now go to Mr. Casali Double. Casali, it was my phone, so go ahead now. You're live.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. John. And let me say good evening to your colleagues in the studio there with you on the platform tonight. Mr. John, it is kind of a funny. You know, sometimes when people come on the platform and try to manipulate them. First and foremost, let me say thanks to to Gibson Cheru. I see him now just pushing against the CDC. I'm surprised I'm over his phone. But this is never even threatening to block me on his platform when I went against CDC, when I used to push against them, every time when I post against them. So, and unfortunately, he's against the CDC, but then he's taking the wrong route.
You're talking to with the CDC, so there are plenty of people here that were with the CDC.
So for him, the reason why I'm busy on him, he and I were interacting when he had the platform, and he was very vigorous. On so many occasions, we went back and forth, you know. And the problem about them is that they keep confusing themselves. They will leave the CDC, pretend that they don't want the CDC. But then if you're going to be leaving the CDC and giving your support to someone who you know is not even coming 4th or 5th in the election, it's simply a means of telling you all that you are just pretending. You are not actually leaving the CDC. Because if you leave the CDC and want to give support to somebody and want to make them to be the head of a ticket going to a major election and knowing very well that that person might not even come 3rd or 4th, then it's just a mockery out of the whole thing. So it's better you just stay with the CDC and give your support and to do all of pretense. You know,
Thank
and the problem
you.
with the Georgia government or like the Bodo I was saying, I think he chose the wrong person of defensive today in the studio. Mr. Bodo absolutely nothing about what's going on in Liberia. He's completely upside of everything. Everything he's explaining there is completely upside down. Students being wired, then you praise them. Government don't do anything, you praise them. So where are we going, guys? Let's be factual and listen and start misleading our people for the betterment of Liberia.
Thank
This
you.
is not a party. This is for Liberia. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Paul, that's it, Paul. Go ahead, sir. You're live.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. John, for taking my call. Mr. John, I'm so disturbed right now. Our country is in a serious mess. It's going to continue being a serious mess. I listened to Brother Morris on the panel there, brilliantly gave an analysis. I was so, impressed with this analysis. But when it came down to the UP, he had the nerve to say it takes a leader to take responsibility. And where's our standard as a people? If a leader come and say, I take responsibility for corruption, for stealing, that means that leader will be prosecuted and sent to prison. Does that mean so Georgia need to come up tomorrow and say, I take responsibility for all the corruption, then he has to go scot-free? That's a new standard. And man, that's our standard supposed to be. If you commit crime, you're supposed to go to prison. But rather when you commit crime, all you got to do is just declare, oh, I take responsibility, and then you go free. That's the standard now? I mean, y'all have a good night, man. Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Let me take this other caller. Is that Norris Johnson? Go ahead, you're live.
Hey, this is Norris Johnson. I hope I'm loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
I'm calling from South Chesterfield, Virginia, and I enjoyed the conversation today. Kudos to all of you guys and leadership, having the ability to lead, motivate, to dedicate, and direct your team to accomplish objectives or missions. That's what Liberia is looking for. And Joseph Boakai does not have a vision. They just cut to the chase, man. This old man is too old. Let him go and sleep. Disclaimer: I'm from Liberia County. He's from Liberia County. Let him use that. Oh, he's been in the government for 10, 15, 20 years. Dude, if he did not perform for the past 20 years or 10 years, what are we expecting from him?
Mr. Johnson, the supporters of Mr. Boakai are saying, what about Joe Biden? He's been in government longer, and he's older than GNB.
Nope.
Correct. Joe Boakai is older than GNB. Can we compare our medical record or medical opportunities that we have in the United States versus Liberia? No. They are not. Life expectancy in Liberia is quite different from Liberia. Can we all agree on that? Joseph Boakai literally travel. No, let's say Joe Biden literally travel everywhere with trained and professional medical doctors behind him, with any as to the detail of his blood type. Joseph Boakai has that.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
No, that's a no. But anyway, the point here is, man, let these old folks, man, retire, and they've done their part. Liberia has not progressed. Why are we regressing back to these same people? What is the point?
Thank you.
So, all right, thanks, man.
Thank you. Caller, go ahead. You're live.
Good morning or good afternoon to you all from there. My name is Zadia, King Zadia. I'm calling from Australia.
Go ahead, Zadia.
Mr. Jai, I want to say thank you to all of you sitting over there. I see a lot of eloquent, educated people sitting over there, including yourself, Mr. Jai. My issue here is Liberia, we have talked so much in many different political settings. What are we doing? We got educated men such as the panel you have over there. We have people who are educated, yet all we the young people continue to hear is criticism. What really are we doing as in partaking in the rebuilding of our so-called undeveloped country that is so fragile that we all talk about other than just talking?
What are we supposed to do? Just quickly. What are we supposed to do?
What are we supposed to do? Okay, I will give you an example. What we are supposed to do, we got Nigerians, we got Ghanaians, we got other people, we got Botswana, people from Botswana, we got people from Kenya. They are all in this different developed world. They go back and make differences. We got surgeons living from that very America going to Nigeria to do surgery. We sit here in our comfort zone and just criticize and criticize and criticize. Apart from the criticism, talking is good. But what are we doing? The George Weah we are talking about here called on all of these politicians when he became president to go and sit on a table to design strategies that will help to build this government. Let's say George Weah doesn't know anything about government, but he did that. Which one of you went there? Who went there? Nobody. So let's stop this thing and try to contribute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last week I had members of the Liberia Medical Mission, 10 persons that were here. They go to Liberia on medical trip every year. So just want to point that out. Let me bring on Mr. Augustus Flomo, aka Pape Flomo. Mr. Flomo, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, Mr. Cha. Anyway, there are so many things to discuss about. I wouldn't take much of your time.
Yeah,
I'm just going to tell you how Georgia is going to, how President Weah will beat these guys. You know, it has been the thought of everyone, and we have all argued that in every election, Georgia has around 38 to 40%. He never goes 40%. So let's assume that it's 38 to 40%, right? So let's say 40%. Now, Councilor Bromsky is no money raised. Grand Bassa Kanda, Yubi Kanga is no Bromsky. Yubi Kanga cannot put the Grand Bassa Kanda people. It was not because of Benson Willie, who supported in that senatorial election, Grand Bassa Kanda. Benson got feelings going to flog Yubi Kanga. So Grand Bassa Kanda, at least Georgia will put an extra 5% from there, plus his 40%, that 45 right there. Let's go to Nimakanda. Prince Johnson is no more running because Prince Johnson said he will support Georgia, and Prince Johnson always come third. If Prince is not third, he's around fourth. He beat Alex Cummings the last time. That whole Nimakanda, Georgia put an extra 10%. 10% for that 45. Now you go right to 55. Let's go to Lofa County. All the Jefferson Kojiu, the Tumofala factor, the last time they flopped Joe Boakai in Lofa County in the senatorial election.
Yeah.
Lofa County, Joe Boakai can never win on the 2% they did it last time. Georgia pull an extra 10% there, almost 65. So President Weah will win the first round around 70%. Mark it and take my Wednesday, Papa Fumo said it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Let's take our last caller here, William McDavis. William, you'll be our last caller. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for giving me this time. I really enjoyed your show. What I want to talk on is that on the issue of our delegation that came to the UN, because I listened to the doctor from the side of the CDC and some people who are saying that these things are not big deal. But what they fail to realize is that in diplomacy, you have protocol. The code of dress and the code of conduct is very important. It's just like if I could ask the doctor, if you were supposed to represent a CEO, a corporate, where you send an application with all your qualifications that you have, and then you go for interview, and you dress the way the protocol, the chief of protocol dress to go for that interview. Despite with all your qualification and your experience, the people will judge you by what? By your dress code. So some of these things I've been to them. Let me tell you, because during the Amos Sawyer time, when Amos Sawyer came to the UN for the very first time as interim president of Liberia to the UN in 1993, there was a security guy, a friend of mine, that we all came to the same very UN that he talked about. And because he misbehaved, he was on the next plane to Liberia because you know what? He brought a reproach on the delegation of Liberia, which were unethical, unprofessional. So as a result, President Amos Sawyer got mad. The man was on the next plane to Liberia. And I worked with the Doe government as a special security personnel. The chief of protocol from the executive mansion, let's forget about UN. The lady, how she dressed. Let's say the Liberian president having, say, a foreign guest, and you as the chief of protocol from the executive mansion, you dress to enter the mansion, the security will not allow you. So you know what? even though if we love somebody, if there are certain things that go wrong, we need to bring these things out so that the people may understand. But if we don't do it, we think that it's just normal. It's not normal. And I can tell you another instance. I went with President Doe because somebody was talking, that one I will talk about it for the Fragility, who went to Ethiopia for the OEU conference. And there was a fight. Because you know what? When they allowed the Liberian delegation, the president to go in, they wanted to limit the inflow of the security. They said only one security. No, we have to put out a fight. I can send you a video about the very thing at UN, where the UN security were in fight with some delegation, some kind of delegation security because of what. So these things happen. Those kind of things happen, man. This is why you, as a diplomat, when you go in those kind of setting, there are certain things that you don't do. Even though they're not bad, but it brings some kind of bad image on the government. So thank you for the time, but just look for our city mayor, the way he dressed, just like a hip hop star. You tell me, as a city mayor, you going to sit down with another country city mayor, what are you going to discuss? They look at from your dress code, they will just judge you. So thank you for the time, Let us do better. We are all diplomats. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Dennis Coty, you got just 30 seconds. We are out of time. Mr. Coty. All right, Mr. Coty is not there, so we close the phone lines. Gentlemen, let's go around the room, respond to our callers, and then you can give your closing comments.
I think it was me and Kroma that actually got caught.
All right. So
we will respond, and you guys
go ahead. They said they don't understand you. You was for CDC yesterday, today is Gonglo. What's going on?
Our Liberian people, when they're ready to lie on you, they will take it to your grave. They lie on Bacchus Matthew. That Bacchus Matthew said you will sell Becquerel for $9. Bacchus Matthew clarified that for the rest of his life, and he died. They are still talking about it. I have said it over and over. I never supported CDC as the way they are talking it. When we came on here, I told you people that I used to work in the background. I used to help them with flyers and other things to help them to navigate. But I was never an open or any supporter of CDC. I have supported someone for the first time openly this time. But let me just say this, just in case, let's make it as an argument, assuming that I even was a sedition. So if I see that the man who I supported to go into power, the man is not doing well and somebody is better coming in so I cannot make change, you think I'll be a sedition who you can pull by your nose? So just because I've supported George Weah and 4 auditors are dying, no arrest, no culpability, somebody appearing in the street, or man or woman bodies appearing in the street, no arrest. Zogos are all over the place. People are being killed. ERW role, a pregnant woman killed, no arrest, and all of these things happening. So if I was sedition, I would just say, yeah, I'll still support him. So the argument they are raising, it doesn't make sense. I don't want to dignify them. I just wanted to comment on something that I wanted to leave with everybody. Somebody said about Councilor Gonglo. When my brother Laraman was speaking, he said the man is credible. So none of us are going to say any derogatory thing about him. If you in politics, if you see someone, if you hear people telling you that this man is credible, but they will not support him, what yardstick are they using to support the other person? This man is credible. This man is clean. This man defend people. This man stood for justice, but will not support him. Will support the person who has never done that. This is the problem in our country. People see the right people and they support other people because of what they think they can get from that person or what they think their political life will be ending up to. Look, there's no politician in the Liberian government or politics right now that is more competent, more qualified, most clean, most integrity than Councilor Gonglo. That's why I said, if this man goes against Joshua is done. Because there will be a conglomerate of support from all the political parties. There will be no one who will say, well, I don't want to go in because he ain't got no beef with anybody. He had defended people. The very people in the ruling party, he defended them. The people in the opposition, he defended them. He put the life on the line. In fact, they are the one that made him poor. They made him poor. They are the reason why he is not rich today, because he was thinking about supporting them. He was not thinking about going to represent big companies to make all the big boss. He was between the government and the poor people. So at this time, this is the man we have seen that can change the trajectory of our country for rule of law, for fight against corruption. A man who does not steal will fight against corruption. And let me tell you, brother Yonton, what Amos Sawyer said, take it with a grain of salt. Amos Sawyer and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf fell out because of Joseph Boakai. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did not want to support Joseph Boakai, and Amos Sawyer was supporting him. As a result, they fell out. Sawyer resigned. He retired on the basis of that animosity. I know that. I have seen it, and I know exactly. So Dr. Sawyer's statement about Joseph Boakai was not true. I was journalist at the time, and there's no way nobody can deceive me. Something I wrote about. Something I wrote a story. It released into my office. I was not a small journalist. I was already a big boy. It's released time, we read it. Amos said you are dismissed for misappropriation of public funds. Then he come back today and say Joseph Boakai did not was not dismissed because of corruption. It's not possible. I cannot write a story today, and tomorrow somebody come and say they're not the same story, even though I said I released that time, but it was not the same story. So let all of us support Congo. We will succeed and we'll remove George Weah.
Thank you.
Let me get my closing so I can go, man.
Mr. Gagwa, you're closing.
Look, Dennis, it's always great to be on. You know, I wasn't too fiery today because I'm hungry right now, but you know, but I will.
You're not fiery now. You're not hungry now. I want to see when you're not hungry.
Y'all know how I can be. But look, it's always good to be on with my brother Yonton. For the record, I cannot go against Yonton. I will never go against Yonton. Yonton is my brother. I will not even argue with him. You understand me? So those of you who've been testing me to go hard on Yonton, Yonton support who he support. I don't support who he support, but I support his candidacy. I think this is a brother who brings a lot to the table. We need to put our hands around young people, young visionaries, educated folks who understands what 21st century leadership actually is. And look, it's no disrespect to our elders and our statesmen, men and women. They've done their part, and we still need their guardianship. We still need their wisdom. But I think it's time that we encourage a lot of young people to step up and deliver. And I think Yonton adds that to the table. He's no joke of a guy, you know. And so we may disagree on his candidate and who he chose to pick, but I respect him, and I will be supporting him. But look, Liberia is all we have, man, and I want a better Liberia. I don't trust the opposition, and I'm not a guy who just criticizes everything. No, I try to look at things both ways, and I think
you trust the government.
No, I don't think the government. No. I don't think the government. When it comes to
you made a statement, you say you don't trust the opposition. That's why I'm just flipping it.
No, I don't trust the opposition only because the opposition have had the opportunity to deliver on the change that they're not talking about delivering, right? And they failed to do that. And so on that basis, a lot of them in the opposition, with the exception of Cummings and Gongo, have been given multiple opportunities to deliver and serve the Liberian people. They haven't. But look, we live in a society of where we respect democratic practices, and they have the right to run. But then they're also under the obligation to articulate their vision for our country and tell us what they will do differently. And so I look forward to that. And we all will be in Liberia to educate, asking the tough questions and holding the candidates accountable. So thank you again, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Yonton, the aspirant, District number 12.
Well, I'm flattered by the kind words. Thank you for your support continuously since we began the process of engaging our district in Montserrat District 12. Look forward to Mr. Morris Gramont joining the team. Some days. I may say he moves slow, so we're waiting for him. But on a more serious note, I think it's been a wonderful time. We will continue to say to the Liberian people what we've seen over the last 5 years is the unraveling of a process in our post-conflict experience that we need to correct. 2017 was a mistake, and we have seen that the country is moving backwards, and we have to call 2023 a cutoff point for most of our people. Liberians are more poorer today than we were when we took office. There are more babies dying before reaching the age of 1 year old today in Liberia than they were when before we took office. Um, there are mass killing, rape on the rise and increase. The Ministry of Gender is doing nothing, and we have comes to the General Assembly and and make claims that Liberia is a stronghold of peace and a safe havens for democracy. Democracy is built on stronger, vibrant institutions. I may not support Ellen. I do not. I'm not a fanatic of her, but she strived towards building strong anti-graft institution on the 12 years of Unity Party government. What we see at the moment with this government is a complete lapse of institutions that otherwise supposed to be um, as a pillar and cushion for our democratic progress. So I think we have to move to the direction of voting experience, voting someone that has been tried and tested. And Big Brother Gibson have asked what's the yardstick. I think that is the yardstick in terms of the experience. He's been tried, he's been tested. No disrespect to Mr. Gonglo. I'm sure we're gonna partner with him in the second round. We're looking forward to that. He has a lot of experience. Part of my downside on his candidacy is that he has a lot of answering to do as it relates to the LPP and this whole historic progressive relationship he shared with other progressive that Liberians have always had a dissenting view about and their role in history. So we look forward to a side in 2023. We hope that the Liberian people can correct the mistake of 2017.
Thank you so much. Join me tomorrow at 7 p.m. when I'm going to be hosting the executives of ALJA, that's the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas. They are having their convention 2022 under the theme, Sustaining Liberia's Democracy Now and in the Future, the Media and 2023 Elections. This Saturday at 7 p.m., we continue our series on the presidents of Liberia. This time, we're going to be looking at Daniel B. Warner. You don't want to miss it. At this time, I'll call on Mr. Maurice Kroman to get his last word. And go ahead, Mr. Kroman.
Thank you, Dennis, for the show today. I thought it was a really brilliant show. Robert and Gibson and Larama and Dr. Boto, I want to say thank you to you guys for the engagement. I thought it was, worth it. I just want to take the time to respond to one of the callers who said, I disappointed him because I said that taking responsibility.
Monrovia is Mali. Yes. Today, if we go to Monrovia, it's like Miami.
All right, guys, I'm out, man. I'm out.
Monrovia is balling like Miami. Go ahead.
So, I mean, the caller said that I disappointed him because I said it was a good leadership trait to take responsibility. I mean, I said that in the context of not saying that it's, embezzling 30 million or 30 million missing from the car. It shouldn't be accounted for. I am a proponent of. When I worked in government, people that follow me on social media will tell you that I was one of those who were very vocal about corruption in the country. And so, I'm always supporting the idea of auditing those who served before. Those who are serving now, I'm hoping that whoever wins the election in 2023 will audit these people and hold them accountable. Because one of the triggers of conflict is seeing people mismanaging public money and public resources and going with impunity. There's always, a mass reaction to such an action. And the more we see that happening in Liberia and nothing happens, people will react. They will, most likely end up into conflict. Another thing I want to talk about is this Pape Flomo, who was claiming that we are, numbers. He was inflating we are numbers between 35 to 40%. I'm not sure where he's getting those numbers from, but if we go back to 2005 when Weah first ran for president, he never ever got to a point where he got 40%. Never got a 40% mark, unless in the second round. But in the first round election, he never got 40%. So we can talk about some of those data, and to think that, well, because he got, assuming he got 40%, it means he can go into NIMBA and get 10% there and get Grandmaster 10%. That is a nuanced way of thinking about election data. That's not how people think about it. Election data are not factored in like that, especially knowing that there are plenty of good candidates in the race. Tiawan Gongo is running, Joseph Boakai is running. You got Cummings running. Cummings in the last election got 100,000 votes. It's a huge number. You can't overlook that. So depending on who Cummings chooses as his running mate, that number could go up or come down. It depends who Tiawan take as his running mate. It could go up. It could be a massive, recruitment of people across the country. So we don't know how the political configuration, we don't know how it's going to play out yet. Yes. Because even some of these people that are expressing their interest to run, some of them will form marriages between now and the end of the year. Those marriages will exist, and based on those marriages, we can make some reasonable assumption on how the election result going to go. But I'm hoping I'll be in Liberia to register and vote and participate in the process. Hopefully, we'll massively support our man Yonton as well. To get him elected. I think Keseli Boulevard area too, so I have small little constituent in that area. Hopefully,
I have somebody living there. I can go there all the time.
We can mobilize our community people to support our man. But before we go there, we'll make our own contribution here. Hopefully, thank you for the show, Dennis. I'm always excited when I come and participate in these shows.
Thank you so much, and don't forget, Monrovia is boiling
in Liberia, Monrovia is boiling. Yes. Today, if we go to Monrovia, it's like Miami.
All right. On that note, I want to say thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. At this time, we're going to end with our song that says, whether you support Gonglo, you support JNB, Cummings, or President Weah, we are all Liberians, and let's make sure that our country remains or be the greatest country on earth and the sweet land of liberty we always dream of. Have a good night, gentlemen, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
We are Liberians.